Hello everyone and welcome back to SB Living. I'm SB and this is the channel for slow, seasonal, and spiritual living, and where we celebrate food, faith, and family in the everyday. You know, some weeks we just need to do what we know works and not experiment with new things, right? So this past couple of weeks I've really leaned into doing the things that I grew up with, that my family has basically mastered, and that I was taught by those around me. One of these things is making the weekly soup, and what you just saw that I was holding is a vegetable called a cucuzza, and it is a type of squash that I have found great success in growing. It's very long, it grows on vines much like you would see peas or pumpkins that grow all up on a trellis rather than the big bushy ones like you would see with zucchini or spring squash or anything like that. And these were just easier to grow. They're not susceptible to these squash bugs. And we used to grow them so often that we would have more than what we knew what to do with. And so this soup is actually called cucuzza. I didn't even know that it was the name of just the squash when I was younger. My grandmothers would always just say, have a bowl of cucuzza, and it was the squash with just the other vegetables. And this time I'm making it with just the onions and garlic. I'm going to put in some potatoes, some tomatoes, carrots, anything that we would have, and it would be cooked down into these big pot of soup. For the tomatoes, I'm actually using some leftover tomato sauce because, again, nothing goes to waste. And then it's just preparing the cucuzza. I'm going to be just peeling it like I would like a butternut squash, because sometimes they do grow either very fresh and when you pick them they're really green, or if you leave them hanging for a while they'll get more cured, I guess I would say. So sometimes we just have to peel the thicker skin. So regardless, it all goes into the pot, and then the pot simmers, and you put in your herbs, you put in your salt and pepper, whatever you would do, kind of like a minestrone, but it's not really, it's just whatever you have. And this pot of soup just becomes this comforting thing that simmers away. You can eat from it time and time again. You can serve it for a ton of people, and it practically feels like you're making it for free because it's whatever you can grow and whatever you would already have on hand. There's no special recipe here. I am using the last of the green beans. Again, whatever I have a handful of, it's going in the pot. And this style of cooking, it's very old school. You would find this in any family or culture where you still have really strong ties to the land, because it's the land that's telling you what to cook rather than what you feel like cooking or what you would love. It's whatever you're lucky enough to be able to cook and feed your family, right? So it's one of these things where it's budget friendly, it's a staple, it is basically a foundation for any Mediterranean diet. You'll find soups in every culture, every nation, every group of people that come from a history of farming or a really strong agricultural background. Soup's the way to go. So this roasted tilapia is going to be served with some gooey garlic and peppers and onions with a fresh garden salad. I mean, you're talking about your most basic weeknight meal. And fish is, I think, one of the most understated types of food that people can cook without really putting in much work. So if you're lucky enough to not be allergic to any seafood or fish, um, you know, eat more of it. That's all I could encourage you. Eat more of it twice a week, 3 times a week. It really is something that if you buy the cheaper cuts like tilapia you see here, sometimes you could get some nice fish on sale. It is worth it. It's better for you. It's lighter on your stomach, and you really do feel refreshed afterwards. If you're eating this at night, you'll feel better in the morning, I guarantee you. It's one of those things where I remember my grandmother saying, if you feel better, you'll do better. And when you give your mind and body a break, you'll also give yourself a break in other ways, you know? This is simple fare, and it's meant for simple people. I really do feel like a lot of our life is becoming more complicated than it needs to be. And I keep thinking more and more now, the more I get older, I keep thinking about how not necessarily easy it was for those in the past. I think it's easy for us to think that life was easier back then, but it really wasn't. But it was different, and I think one of the things that we could do more of is to become less distracted and to keep our temptations at bay. I think we're so inundated with temptations, getting more stuff, getting newer stuff all the time. Before you even get used to it, right, the new thing comes out. Whereas if you just earned what you had, you kept it, and it stayed with you, and you didn't need more because you already had it. It is a truth that eventually you will run out of stuff that you need because you will already have everything that you need. And I think we reach that point well before we actually realize it. So, if anything at all, please take stock of what you do have, but take more stock of the people around you and your health and your relationship with yourself. And you'll find that you actually have everything you need. So my sister and I have this joke that there always has to be a salad on the table. And it doesn't matter if you are serving a regular weeknight meal or a big holiday feast, or even if you didn't plan on eating it anyway, the salad has to be on the table. I don't know where this came from, but it is something where it just doesn't feel right if it's not on the table. It's something that if you don't have it, someone has to make it. It's the lettuce, it's the cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever you have. It's a salad. It's on the table. You eat it before, during, or after, whatever the case may be. It's there. And it's so funny because don't we all have that thing, right? That if it's not there, it doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't feel complete. And you miss it. So that being said, yes, I'm making the fish. Yes, I'm making some vegetables and everything else that goes with it, but the salad is going to be there. And as you can see, I have enough to make it. And I'll tell you, it's going to be eaten. At some point, this will be eaten because I know it's something that everybody enjoys, and it's something that just finishes the meal. And in case you're wondering what most Italian families use for their salad dressing, no, we don't buy it in a bottle, but we also don't make it in another jug either. It's salt and pepper, extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of red wine vinegar, and a splash of lemon juice. That is the best dressing that you'll enjoy more than anything you can buy. I guarantee it, and that's all there is to it. So outside of cooking, there's a few things that really take me back, but I also start wondering why we continue to do these things anyway when we have such modern conveniences. And some people, they like the nostalgia of doing things like hanging up clothes on a clothesline. For a lot of my reasons, it comes down to the most practical. There are things that I need to take care of well, like my daughter's school shirts that need to be hung up so I don't necessarily have to iron them later. No lie, that's why I hang up everything, but also it keeps things in better condition, especially also with whites. There's nothing that beats the sun. So just the tips and the tricks that were handed down to me from my family, but it's also those tips and tricks from a bygone era that we don't necessarily need to continue, but it does make things feel a bit better and you just have more control over stuff. I mean, tell me the last time you put something in the dryer and it came out all raggedy, right? So sheets, whites, clothes that need to last a while, they go outside. And I always thought that no, we don't necessarily have to do these things, but it is the smart way of doing things, right? And years of habits don't necessarily cancel them out. But there is room for newer things. So just like I will always continue to hang clothes outside, there are some things that I want to also start. See, it is fall, it's autumn. And for my family, at least my generation, we haven't had the need to move around. What I mean by move around, I mean immigrate to a whole other country or move cross country or do some drastic lifestyle changes for better job opportunities. I think my generation is a generation that has finally benefited from all of that, and now I'm actually taking on a lot of the culture of my local area. There's nothing like New York in the fall, and whether that's pumpkin pie, apple pie, I think pumpkin spice latte may have been born in this area. And though I'm not a fan, it is something that still is very unique. And so pumpkin pie and apple pie, it's now part of our tradition, at least in my family, my nuclear family, my little one that I'm growing, and hopefully one to pass down. Something about coming from an immigrant heritage or an immigrant culture, you're always trying to hold on to what makes you you, and you bring it with you no matter where you go, and you don't want to lose sight of that. But it's also okay to take what's great about the new place that you're in, and who knows, maybe your identity grows with it. So even though the times are getting colder in this season and summer is already far behind us, there really isn't any other way to make some steak rather than putting it on the grill. So you'll find that the fire is on. Even if we have to put out the strobe light outside, we'll figure out a way to grill that meat. Um, I do use the air fryer. Sometimes I do use the oven, but when the weather is accommodating, even if it's a bit cold, certain types of steak just are meant to be grilled. So these ribeyes I was able to get from Costco, and 4 or 5 at a time, that's gonna feed our family for one night. And it's just salt and pepper and some Montreal steak seasoning, I think that's what it was. And I just put it on the side and wait for my husband to get on the grill. You know, we don't really do a lot of broccoli. I think cruciferous vegetables aren't as popular in my family as I guess in most, but broccoli and steak are definitely a good pairing. And the best way I like to make them anyways, the same I would make any other vegetable, which is to do the least amount of work possible in order to enjoy the biggest amount of flavor. So this broccoli is going to go into the pan with a little bit of water. I'm going to try to keep the florets as big as possible because the more they look like trees, the more my kids will want to eat them. So it's just about piling it on the biggest pan that I got, putting in some water and letting them steam slowly, but not so that they don't lose all their color. And with the broccoli are some potatoes that I'm going to cube up. I am going to put these in the air fryer just so that I don't have to put more stuff on the stove. And I do think that the air fryer makes a really good job at frying up some potatoes. What I mean by frying, I mean making them taste like French fries, no matter what shape that you cut them in. I am going to do some cubes, just whatever's going to make it cook faster. And that's that. Potatoes, broccoli, and steak. It is the simplest meal, but the one that everyone's going to be happy about, and the one that's going to be filling our tummies tonight for sure. So the thing about traditional food is that it's traditional because it's good. And whatever is not broke, don't fix it. And if there's anything about keeping tradition alive in your own home, it's keeping the things that made you happy and continuing to make them for others around you. You know, chicken is really what sustains us a lot. It's the cheaper poultry. It's the thing that you could feed a lot of people um, with just a little bit of work, because once you put it in the oven, it basically cooks itself. I always do some chicken. You know this. It's roasted, it's baked, it's in the skillet, it's all the things. And I did a spatchcock chicken not too long ago. I'm going to do it again because it is that easy. And I'll show you another way of doing it here where sometimes you just got to get some hands involved. Just got to get down and dirty with this chicken. Otherwise, the seasoning just won't make it everywhere. But when you do spatchcock it, you could either split it down the back or split it down the breast. Whichever way, as long as it's flat, you're doing the job, right? So what you'll see here is that I'm just looking to see where it might crack the easiest. And for this chicken, I believe straight down the breastbone is my best bet. So once I get it, I basically snap it open, I push it down, and then it's in the oven. That extra marinade is going to go right on top just for flavor, making sure it all gets in every crevice. And this is going to be this day's dinner. So I tried growing asparagus for a few years, and I come to find out you really need the space for them to just grow and grow wild, because they actually are a wild growing vegetable, and I just didn't have that space. So when I do see them on sale at the market, I do get them. I get about 2 or 3 bunches, if you know what I'm talking about. If you ever see them bunched up in the market, snap the ends off wherever it naturally snaps. I do save the ends and freeze them in order to make some broth for any other thing later, so it all gets used up. But in this particular version, instead of just salt and pepper and then put in the oven, I am going to add some breadcrumbs right on top, just for some extra flavor and some extra crunch. And the breadcrumb mixture that I do use also has that cheesy part of it, and it just adds that extra oomph for these asparagus. Um, it is something my mother always used to make. It was the only way I made asparagus for a very long time. And again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It is the best way to enjoy your food. And it's the best way to encourage those around you to partake in the memories that you hold dear. And with that, I want to wish you a beautiful week. Stay true to yourself, stay true to your traditions, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Stay safe and God bless.